Well, with all the soybeans gone and delivered, it's time to do some work around the shop and get caught up on a few things. Today I'm working on a 1486 project tractor that I started quite a while ago, before I started YouTube videos. And I decided to come back in and have a look at it today again. I got a little bit of free time. I bought the tractor without the cab. The cab is sitting outside, and I've gotten the hood off, gotten the spare fuel tank, which sits right inside here, got it out of the way, got some of the stuff cleaned off of the inside of the transmission. And when I bought it, the guy said it had a bearing out in the transmission, and I'll show you here in just a second. But so far I'm just kind of draining the oil out, getting everything out of the way, so we're getting ready to split it. Well, if you can see that, you probably can't see it real well. Let's see if I can get the light turned on this thing. But there's a bearing out right there. The light on. Now, being I've had several of these tractors apart, especially my anteaters, over the last couple of years, I know what this thing kind of is supposed to look like. This right here is a kind of a shiny, that's kind of the outer race part is what it looks like. Because you can see as I lift up on that with the pry bar, yeah, that's definitely the bearing that's out right there. And basically that allows the gears to not stay meshed up right up in there. Right there, them two teeth right there, when you start taking off, I mean, it'll move, the tractor runs and drives, but when you start pulling on it, those two gears are jumping over because they don't meet, they don't mesh far enough down in the teeth themselves to stay biting. So I'll try to keep you updated on this thing as I go, but basically what I got to do, I've got to pull this plate off the bottom here yet so that I can get that front gear to come out the bottom as I start to split it. And I got to remove a few of these lines and pull the starter off once I get it apart. But basically I'm going to split it right there at this back half of the tractor. I'll put the stand underneath of it right here behind the engine, and as I start to pull this thing apart, this big shaft comes clear up through the clutch to the front. It's got to come all the way out the back, so I got to slide this whole transmission all the way out until we clear that, which will be about right here. Might be about right here, actually, I don't remember now, but anyway, I've got to slide this whole front end clear out until it'll clear all that, and then I can take this whole transmission piece, which is from here down to there, and put that baby on a stand. And my stand is over there in the pile around the corner, but I've got to get this thing completely stripped down to get that gear set and shaft out of there to replace that bearing, and hopefully don't have to replace the shaft. But from just looking, she's kind of chewed up. It might have to get replaced. It doesn't look like the housing is hurt because it's got another insert or sleeve or something there it's wet riding on yet. I don't think it's been run too terrible long. And that little paw right down in there is the transmission brake, and it's not too much pad left on it, so it's going to have to get replaced also. And that's when you step on the clutch and you want to shift gears, your transmission should slow down fast enough that you don't have to grind the gears. It should basically shift within 3 seconds of stepping on that clutch. So you step on the clutch 1, 2, 3, and you should just basically slide into gear. And that will definitely cause you grinding if it's not adjusted right, or if the pad's all worn out like this one is. So anyway, we'll get after her and see if we can't get her split and have a look at her hopefully this evening. So I got that plate off the bottom, and you can really see that bearing now wobbling back and forth as if you couldn't see it before. Those other gears in there look okay, and that paw that I was showing you with the transmission brake, that's this guy right here. This little arm sits, there's some of the bearings right there, some of the little needles out of that bearing. Get them out of the way for a second. I can get them all out of there. Yeah, I can't quite grab them all. Make kind of a mess on the floor. That's alright. That's what oil dries for. Anyway, this thing sits in there against that gear, and as you step on the clutch, this little arm just moves just a little bit, just enough to put that little paw up against the gear. That's what's supposed to slow your gears down. As you can see, that's rubbing into the metal. That's supposed to be a fiber pad on there. Some of the newer ones, I believe, have a replaceable wearable pad you can put on there. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't remember, but that one's you're gonna take this whole arm, this whole little arm out of here so you can replace that whole pad. Not a big deal, but definitely gonna get replaced because that's no good. That's no bueno. Not gonna work. Now I just got to get a few more of these lines on across here disconnected and out of the way. There's not a whole lot left to getting it apart. Really made it pretty easy because the cab's not on here. I can just kind of reach up and around and over and don't have to worry about the dang cab being in the way. That's kind of handy, but there's not a whole lot left to disconnect, as I was saying, just to get her apart. But I got to get all this stuff out of the way, and then I can get the split stand stuck on here. So I guess I'll just get after. Well, alright, now we've got all the lines disconnected and out of the way. Got the starter wires, all the accessory wires, cab wires are held up out of the way. Shift linkage is off. Park linkage is off. And we're pretty much ready to put the splitting stand in place. So, we'll grab that guy and get her stuffed in there real quick. Now with the splitting stands in place, I'm ready to start pulling these big bolts out right there, both sides. And hopefully we can wheel her apart without this thing trying to go teeter-tottery on her splitting stand. I think just for extra precaution, I'll go ahead and put a floor jack underneath this end as I split it and try to slide it apart. That way she doesn't try to fall down on me. Might be a little safer that way. And if it does start to tip and I don't have the floor jack under there, it'll be awful hard to get that to go up and down across that shaft sitting in here like this. If it's sitting down, it'll pinch on that shaft and won't want to slide apart. Well, we got all the bolts out. No matter how hard you try, you can't ever keep all the oil cleaned up. We got another drip coming from this split flange right here. Popped all the bolts out. Then we started dripping out of this guy. Right, god dang it, right on the floor. Well, it's good to keep a bucket handy. And that pan's handy just to sit on that stand. That stand's basically just holding up the front end of this rear transmission housing. Otherwise, you pop this baby loose and she's just going to fall down on the ground too. I've got it rigged up so the back end, right there, there's two little bolts sticking up right there. Come on, focus, there you go. They, shine the light on, there we go. Those two bolts right there, positioned right up in the center of that drawbar. If I have to take the rear transmission housing completely out from underneath the tractor, but since we're not doing that, basically I'm just using the nose of it here, supporting the front end of the transmission. The tires will keep the transmission from going side to side, so that's about all they're doing. But anyway, I'll grab the pry bar and see if I can't start inching this thing apart. Well, there she is, all split apart. First half anyway. Now, this tractor did not have low gear because the shaft would not slide far enough. But as we split it apart, I noticed this big old nut was just sitting clear back there against the housing. Well, that nut is supposed to be on this shaft right there. And that front bearing being out allowed the shaft to slide on down out of the position. Nut fell out of the place. This bearing's okay, which holds the backside of the counter shaft. But anyway, that's basically what happened. The front bearing went out, the shaft slid forward, and we can't get it to stay in. What the heck was it? I don't remember which gear it was, but it would pop and ping when it was in one of the gears, and I can see some of them in that hole right there. And I can't really tell if they're any good, and the camera doesn't want to focus. Well, I don't see anything broken yet. Well, that's just a few teeth. So anyway, this bottom shaft is probably, this is supposed to be threaded right there, and she's probably chewed up from that gear inside there flopping around on top of her. She's probably chewed up. I'll probably just have to replace that whole lower shaft and get a new bearing on the front of her. And I can't see too much else wrong with it. The TA shaft is, come on, focus camera. What are you doing? Focus. Anyway. What the heck? There we go. Now we got focus. Anyway, the TA shaft seems to be good and tight. Got a little dirt on her from splitting, but no big deal. I haven't seen too many broken teeth back here in this set. This is the high-low range side. It's currently in park, so she wouldn't move. And those look okay. And this is your PTO shaft. It runs continuously while your engine's running. That's how you get your IPTO. So anyway, we got to get this guy split the next day or two. Hopefully the next day or two. We got to get this thing taken off here with the cherry picker right there. And get her over here on the stand. But that's going to be all for tonight, guys. I'm getting tired. So I'll just call it a night and go in the house and have me a little bit to eat. Come back and work on this on another day. Well, back at it today after work. I've got this transmission completely hanging on the stand. Here's what she looks like when she's completely apart. Big cavity underneath of there. Anyway, I'm about to get it on the stand, rather. I'm seeing a few things here in the clutch housing. Looks kind of icky. I suppose. Yeah. Interesting. So this is why our clutch would not stop us. Yeah, how about that? Throttle bearing is total garbage. Here's some of the balls down in here in the cage. Yeah, that's fantastic. So there she is, hanging on the stand, hanging on a cherry picker. We're about to get it on the stand, sitting right there. Don't know about the clutch. It's probably alright, but I suppose we ought to pull it apart and have a look, make sure. Of course, you can't see anything of it until you do take it apart, but let's get her hung. Well, there she's hanging completely on the stand. Now we can use this little crank over here, and we can spin this guy completely 180 degrees upside down and around and look at it from upside, bottom side, front side, back side, any way we want. Doesn't matter. Really sweet. Got the top cover off, looking at a few of the gears. The shifters are out of the way. This one's got a couple small little nicks on it here and there, kind of chewed up a little bit from not being fully engaged. Not a major deal, but I don't like it. It's going to get replaced. It's got a few pretty good nicks in it. This back one back here definitely is going to get replaced. It's a double gear, so it'll have all new top gears in it by the time we get done. She's got a pretty good brakes in it right there. Again, from not being somebody be banging and slamming the gears together, and that's never good. You can see that bottom one in there where she messes up. She's pretty sharp where the teeth come in together, where they line up. That's pretty chewed up. Can't see anything too much on these two yet. So yeah, she's just loosey-goosey down there. That shaft is just not holding her together at all with that slid out of that bearing. So a little disassembly and we'll have this thing apart and know what the heck we need for sure and start ordering parts for tomorrow. And there they are, all the gears out. Didn't take very long, just a little love tap of the hammer. And we got a few teeth on there that are a little boogered up. That's to be expected. Nothing major. Anything that I can see that's got a big chip out of it, like the ones I was showing you before, we're going to replace that shit. Yeah, that guy down there has got a chip on it, so she's going to get replaced. I don't see too many majors on this next one. Oop, don't fall over. Stay still. Here, come on now. I think that next one will be okay. And then this top one. She looks all good. It's probably fine. And then the next thing. Yeah, ooh, yucky. This is where she was supposed to be riding, and with that bearing going out, the Pto Shaft had slid forward and was riding right there. Ugh, nasty. So I'm gonna put a new shaft in it, put a couple new gears in it, put a new bearing in it, and she'll be ready to rock and head back out the door. Well, I mean, we got to get the cab back on and do some other knickknacks, but you know, at least it'll be a running tractor. At least something we can use. Check that out. That bearing in there. Oh God. There's our little spacer ring. It's stuck in there. It doesn't want to come out yet. But man, she was just completely foobarred on that guy. But at least the TA is looking good. I don't see nothing majorly wrong with that guy. No major teeth junk's coming out nowhere. Well, now we just got to get some parts ordered for it. Yeehaw. Somebody thinks I'm funny. Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah, we'll get some parts ordered for her and get her slapped back together. Get some fresh oil stuck in it. That oil's looking pretty nasty.
Look at that, the sun's out.
Yeah, sun's out. This is a crazy day. It was super warm yesterday, 50 some degrees. Today it's like, I don't know, I think it was like 25 degrees most of the afternoon, then it started sleeting and raining and nasty stuff come about 1 o'clock, and then she just started really coming down, and they're supposed to get like 6 inches of snow tonight, so that's why the old skid loader's in here, to get it ready to push snow, push the driveway out. Well, anyway guys, I'll get this thing kind of wrapped up and get some parts ordered and show you what that looks like.